do we become in right relationship with God? You know, for centuries before Jesus, there was a Chinese philosophy by a person of Lao, Tau, I don't know how to pronounce it, he inspired the world with these words. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Today, the Beatitudes invite us to become what we might be. And that is good news. If you are poor or sad or afraid or hungry, don't worry. Jesus will fill you with riches, make you happy, calm your fears, and feed you with the bread of life. Living in the face of the ever-present wars and conflicts right now, we must become peacemakers. We withdraw and rethink how to approach a situation, and well, we must be willing to stand up for our faith and put our lives on the pin. We must be willing to maybe face persecution of some sort, ridicule, and who knows, even a martyr's death. We must be willing to let go of who we are so we can become what we might be. So in Matthew's Sermon on the Mount, why would Jesus say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, those who mourn, the meek, those who thirst for justice"? Is it because Jesus recognized that in some of the world's cultures, the tendency is to place, too high a value on self-reliance? We sometimes, maybe often, imagine that we can rely on our own personal strength to face the challenges that the world throws at us. Certainly, our culture seems to be one that promotes self-interest and self-reliance. How many times have you heard, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps? Well, what happens if you don't have bootstraps? And how do we look at the people who were chosen by Jesus? They left what they knew. They had occupations. They dropped everything and still went. No training, just go. And we know what their rewards were afterward. They did actually get the story of Jesus out there. But what happened to them? So if we buy into this bootstrap kind of thinking, the tendency is to believe that we will only get as far as our own efforts will take us. We lose sight of the fact that we are the beloved children of God, that the God who desires a personal relationship with us. We fail often enough and experience our own errors, which may lead us to wonder how God could possibly love us. We are unworthy. True. We might feel alone, filled with our own concerns and worries. We could end up calling upon God when our efforts fail, when life teaches us that we are not in control of all that life presents to us. A colleague shared that when visiting with his spiritual director, he disclosed some of the struggles in his spiritual life. His director responded that the source of his struggles was his arrogance. And he thought, I'm not arrogant. His director told him that arrogance stemmed from his desire to not have to depend on God for help with his faults. As my friend shared this conversation, I was struck by an awareness. That was me for a long time. I desired to not have to depend on God's help with my faults. Instead, I preferred to overcome my inadequacies on my own. However, my memory bank found multiple examples for each of the Beatitudes where I have failed. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Well, how often I was filled with self-righteousness when I thought I'd been slighted or treated rudely, resulting in less than a Christ-like response. And blessed are the meek. How often had pride kept me from helping someone in need because I didn't want to get involved, or I was just in a hurry. Blessed are they who show mercy. How often was I incensed about the stories of injustice that were broadcasted, on a seemingly daily basis, and yet didn't take the time to do anything in response, didn't even call my congressman, didn't call and make a difference. With each example of failure on my part, I could sense hope, and sometimes I felt maybe I was unlovable. It is in these times that humility will allow me and you, all of us, to know that we need God's love and forgiveness to be more Christ-like, to become more, the person God created us to be, to be our true selves. It's true for me. How about you? In our reading from Micah, we have all we need to know. Our do list is simple. What does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and walk humbly with your God? And from another prophet, Zephaniah, seek the Lord, all you humble of the earth, who observed his law. Seek justice, seek humility. It is these faithful servants who Jesus called blessed. They dropped everything and went. This is not to deny our giftedness. Each of us has been endowed with gifts to further God's kingdom, not just our own personal little small kingdoms that we think are so great. We are to develop and use these gifts for God. And when we are in right relationship with God, we recognize that credit God for these gifts because God deserves the credit. God gifted us with talents. In the second reading, Paul encouraged us that when recognition comes our way, we should boast about the Lord, not ourselves. Too much patting on the back, self-praise stinks, The Beatitudes remind us of our attitudes. When we fall short on living out the Beatitudes, we can turn to the words of one of the early church fathers, Anselm. And maybe this prayer will help you, I don't know. To quote from Anselm, I don't remember exactly what century. Hope of my heart, strength of my soul, help of my weakness. By your powerful kindness, complete what in my powerlessness I attempt, although I have not yet attained love for you as I ought. Still, let my desire for you be as great as my love ought to be. And the church says, Amen.